you hate the thought of working past 55 or 60? Do you hate not being able to live the life you deserve today? Do you hate not knowing what your financial future looks like? It's time to stop doing what you hate. Here's your host, Mr. Harold Green.
Hello, everyone. This is Harold Green of Bright Tree Financial Group, and it is time to stop doing what you hate. How's everybody doing today? And, I hope you are having a fantastic day. I'm doing really well today. I have a special guest in the studio with me. His name is Adam. And I swear, man, I forgot how to pronounce his last name. So I'm going to try 3 times. And I'm going to say Kosh is the first one. Kosh is the first one. Kush.
Strike 1. Strike 2.
And then Kos.
Strike 3. You got real close in the last one.
Kos.
It's Kosh. Like kosher dill pickles.
Like Kosh.
Yeah.
Like
Remember
everything
kosher
is
dill
Kosh.
pickles. Yeah.
Right. So, I'm glad to have Adam in the studio today. And I want to go back and talk about my mission again. And that's basically to help the middle class, whether you're in the upper middle class, the lower middle class, or the middle class, whatever that means. And, there's a lot of wealthy people out there. There's also a lot of poor people out there. But, there's a spot where, you get to a certain point in life and a couple of different things can happen. You can either excel and move to the next level, or you can be trapped. And so today, Adam and I are going to have a really cool conversation about the things that you can do to excel and move from where you are today to where you really want to be. And so are you guys ready? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, let's get it. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome, man. Let everybody know where you at.
Columbus, Ohio. So I grew up in the Cleveland area, and I'm a diehard, very, very sad Browns fan. I kind of stay that way. But also Ohio State alum, so I guess we kind of find some balance there. And Buckeye fans, we think we're supposed to win every game every year. So there's of course that side of the equation too. But yeah, Columbus, Ohio, Dublin specifically is where we live. Not Dublin, Ireland, but Dublin, Ohio. And 21 and a half years in the financial advisory world so far. And having fun still.
Why did you become a fiduciary advisor, planner, strategist? I know you wear a lot of different hats, but why did you decide to go this route? You're a pretty smart dude. You could have done anything, probably electrical engineer, like NASA rocket scientist. Like
I don't know about that, but I was in school to be for med school. I was pre-med. That was the plan the whole time, and it didn't work out that way. Long story. That's too long for this episode. But at the end of the day, my senior year, after finishing all the pre-med prereqs, I just decided I just didn't want to go to school for another 7 years, but I wanted to do something else. So, my dad introduced me to his financial advisor. I talked to him a couple times. I came back to Columbus, watched a seminar, and the next thing you know, it was like, what? If I could figure out a way that I could perform or at least diagnose problems in people's lives, financial problems, and perform financial surgery as opposed to trauma surgery, that would be similar. And I fell in love with it really, really quickly. Right off the bat, it's just, didn't take long before I started saying things like, I haven't worked in a year, I haven't worked in 5 years, and now it's, I haven't worked in 21 and a half years. So what I love, I'd say the reason why I started the whole fiduciary side of the equation here is because, I don't know, I guess we were already doing things that way. We were already acting as fiduciaries before we were fiduciaries, but we wanted to be able to climb out to the top of the mountain and say that, we're the ones that are going to take good care of you, regardless of whether we're implementing your financial plan and investing 100% of your money in large cap stocks or the Swedish krona. It didn't make a difference.
Gotcha. We're talking about the middle class and some of the things that the middle class families go through. And I'm going to put this one out there right at the top. This is a big one. And I'm going to put it right out there, like right now. As a fiduciary, our job is to do what's in the absolute best interest of the client, whether they either believe us or not, or they understand us or not. Like, for example, this past year, the 2022 market, I'm sure you had a couple of people call you and just tell you some things that, made your skin crawl or whatnot. And if you didn't have them, congratulations, because I know I had a couple here and there.
There's always a couple.
Yeah, but it's always a couple, right? But when they call you and they say these things to you, and you have this great plan put in place, and you've done the surgery, they healed up nicely, and now they call you back and they want to go and wreck themselves up again. Like, what do you say to them to prevent them from making decisions that good and well it's not going to help them get to where they need to be?
I always say the number one reason why financial plans fail or retirement plans fail is because the client abandons the plan. And the number one reason why the client abandons their plan is because the volatility of the markets becomes too much for them, and they throw their hands up and they quit. They can't take it anymore. And to me, the number one diagnosis for that problem is that the portfolio is too aggressive.
Okay.
And maybe they didn't know it. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like if you use, speed limits as an analogy for risk. If the market's going up like 2017, one of the lowest volatility years in the history of the markets,
right?
And you do an analysis, let's just say just quick psychoanalysis of a client and how much risk they're comfortable taking. They're going to tell you, I drive my car at 75. You do it in the middle of 2022, they're going to say it's 45.
Right.
So it just depends on what the markets are doing. So I think it's the hardest part is trying to figure out with everybody you're sitting across the table from, how can they handle risk in the worst times? And if you can manage to the worst times, then the rest will take care of itself, I think.
Gotcha. So that's the question, though. Why do you think it's such a moving target with some people? And I've heard someone say this the other day, that maybe they just really don't know what they want. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want, and it's constantly changing or evolving. So how do you handle that?
Me personally, and I don't know if this is really the answer you want, what you're looking for, but me personally, it comes down to a written plan. Okay. If I believe, I was just sharing a statistic with somebody out of San Francisco, 6.6% of financial advisory firms reported that they do proactive advanced financial planning.
Wow.
And that's a very, very small number.
That is.
Some of that's because people don't want to pay for it.
Okay.
Some of it's because the firms just don't do it. And that's the bigger number. When I say most, I don't mean, 95%. I mean, a majority, meaning more than half of firms don't implement financial planning, retirement planning projections. So I think that what you're doing, if you don't have a plan in place, a written plan, is you're hoping you make it. And I think that when you are in the middle of a bear market, or even if it's just your run-of-the-mill 14% annual correction, and you're freaking out as a client, if you have a plan and you can then pull up that plan and go, okay, it's fine, we're okay, then there's nothing to freak out about. But if you don't have a plan and your plan is hope, that's the strategy, then I think it's going to be pretty tough to answer any client's questions, because you really don't know how. Like if I'm trying to get across the country from Columbus to Hawaii, and my plan is drive west and swim, I mean, I'm not sure if that's the best advice in the world, So I know it sounds maybe cliche, but I think that at the end of the day, everyone, even people who have absurd amounts of money, but especially the middle class, needs to have a plan in place, because we got to know where we're going in order to determine how we're going to invest our money.
I totally agree with you on that. Every single client that's a client of mine that's in my money management system has a plan that every time they call me and we do a review or whatever, we update something, my assistant sends out that plan for them to DocuSign.
That's awesome. That's
Their
awesome.
plans are DocuSign every single time they make changes. So no one can tell me that I haven't done a plan for them, because it's automatically updated and sent to them and they have it on record. But to your point, a lot of people fail to look at their plans, just like they fail to look at the map, because they think they know where they're going.
Mm-hmm. Well, and some of it's just fear. I mean, I always joke that if markets just went straight up, I wouldn't have a job. So
exactly.
and when a client calls in with a question, or they're upset or concerned or fearful, at the end of the day, we always say they don't understand, and it's our job to help them understand. It's our job to educate them.
Right. And
if it's not okay, we need to make it okay. Like you mentioned earlier, the whole risk issue, or the markets, are freaking them out and things are down maybe more than they'd like them to be. Well, what that tells me is maybe we got it all. We were off a little bit in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we thought we were right when we sat down together, you and the client or clients, and said, we drive our car at 70 and we're a moderate growth investor. But at the end of the day, maybe we're actually a solid, right in the smack dab in the middle balanced investor. Maybe we were just wrong. We thought we were right. We were wrong. Change it.
Right. Now, we're getting into some real deep psychological stuff. And I think, if I could call you Dr. Adam, that'd be awesome. But here's the deal. And I want you to help me diagnose this, because this is insane. A lot of people talk about their financial situation either in a good way or in a bad way. I'll give you an example. You're at your boy's house and, they're talking to you about like this hot stock tip that they got, and they're all like happy about it and they made so much money about it. Or then someone comes to you and say, they give you something negative, they throw something bad at you, And my question is why when people get together, they have a tendency to do this like one-upmanship, with their portfolios, and then, like want to change something just because somebody said at a party. I used to stand up in front of my workshops when I did public speaking and say, the worst thing you guys can do is go talk to your neighbors about what you're trying to do and how to solve your problems. That's the worst thing you can do. Go talking to your family, because if they have no responsibility and no skin in the game, how do you know they're going to tell you what's in your absolute best interest? So how do you help your clients and condition your people to stay away from that bull that they hear at parties, and, stay away from one-upmanship, and just like keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, stay the course?
I think some people are really private, and that's not going to be a problem to begin with. I think some people are going to be, they don't know that they're going to go talk about it at a party until they do, and then they do, and then it becomes, I don't want to call it a problem, but it comes back to you. And I think that's where I would say, what's the next most important thing to your health? Probably your money. Some might argue your religion is first, right?
Yeah.
But money is top three, I'd argue.
Right.
And I can't think of anything else that's more important. So with that being said, if your health is close to being as important as your money, because obviously you can't spend it if you're not healthy,
Right.
or if you're gone, if you're dead, you can't spend it either. I would say that if you need surgery, would you ask your neighbor what they think about whether or not you need your gallbladder removed? If you have diverticulitis and you need a partial colon resection, are you going to go ask your friend down the street or your longtime friend at church what do they think they could do? What would they do if they were you?
Right.
And worse yet, because you've heard this, I know you have. I want to buy this stock, Harold, because this friend of mine I was talking to on the way on the subway on the way to work said it was this great thing and he bought it and it's made all this money. So can you buy this stock for me? It's like, well, I mean, I don't know how women think, but I heard a mentor of mine once say that men will spend hours and hours researching how much they're going to spend on a $500 lawnmower.
Right.
But then they'll go spend $5,000 on a stock that they overheard someone else talking about at a table next to them at a restaurant.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when the time comes that you have that, hey, well, my friend said this, or I was talking to my dad, and he manages his portfolio his whole life, so he's an expert. And it's like, well, is he? I mean, because it's kind of like Vegas. I hate to use gambling analogies and when talking about this stuff, but there's just so many that work. When you go to Vegas, everybody's excited, right?
Yep.
People are on the plane, they're dancing, they're shouting, they're having a great time. On the way back, it's quiet, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
On the way back, it's quiet, except for that one or two people that won some money. So, I mean, it's not all that different. The person who is going to give you all kinds of advice is only going to tell you about their wins. They're not going to talk about their losses.
Hey, I got to say this. Every time I go out to your neck of the woods and I come back to Hawaii and I see the people on the plane, it's the same thing. Everybody's excited. I can barely get any freaking sleep because the kids are all excited. The parents are excited. We're going to Hawaii. I'm like, God, dog, man, like, please. But then
you're just going home,
on the way going back, like when I fly to Atlanta.
Different story.
It's a different story, man.
Different story.
They're all sunburned and burnt out, and it's
Yeah,
I definitely agree with
Throats
that.
dry from running up Haleakala when they were told not to. I know the story.
Yeah, $300 for a steak dinner, and that's just for your bill.
Yep.
But that's pretty awesome. So talk to me a little bit about, we're going to talk about the top 3 problems you see in the middle class. And then we're going to talk about like maybe 1 or 2 solutions that if somebody's in your area, and I'll let you share a little bit about how people can get at you when we're done. But before let me go back and talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I used to be a college funding expert, and I still am in a sense or another. But it's one of the things I see where the middle class, they really want their kids to get educated. But the level of education at this point has changed drastically from what it used to be. So how do you talk to people about paying for college, and, what kind of advice do you give on that? Because I think that's one of the big bazookas that are blasting at the middle class right now.
That's difficult because I think college savings and how we pay for college as a parent is hereditary. I think if your parents paid for your college, you want to pay for your kids' college. And I think if your parents didn't pay for yours, you might want to help, but you're not going to want to pay for it all. It's hereditary. Wow. So I think that when you want to pay for it, when I come across clients who want to pay for it, it's extremely difficult, almost religious, to get them to break away from that idea. And let alone the idea that maybe it'd be better for your kid to start a plumbing business and he'd make way more money and have zero debt.
Whoa. I mean? That's offensive, though. What you just said is offensive to some people. I'm telling you, that right
the
there is
opposite's
heresy.
Offensive to plumbers,
Right. I mean, but for real, though, I mean, I want to have this conversation with you because I ventured out of that line for my practice. I still do take people on here and there. But when I see kids come in and they're struggling with school and they're struggling with identity and all these different things, paying $80,000 for Stanford, even if they get in, is probably not the right thing for them.
Probably not.
But some parents are like, my kid got into Stanford, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, but should you, though? Right.
Yeah. It's New Balance shoes cover your feet just like Louboutins, right? So I don't know you need to spend all the money on the label unless you have it like that. But that's a different story.
But that's something that plagues the middle class, though.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right.
I would agree.
So basically, you just kind of tell them straight up, this is how you feel, and based on their situation, this is what you see, and then you give them advice that's in their best interest on that, and then you let them go and chew on that.
I would say that some of it's philosophical. I think that's where it has to start. Okay. And then that's the second piece of the philosophy would be, you've heard this a million times because you're in this business, but the flight attendant analogy, that in the case of sudden drop of air cabin pressure, oxygen mask is going to fall from the ceiling. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first, then your kid. Right. In other words, don't sacrifice your own retirement planning for your kid's college. It doesn't make any sense. They have plenty of time to pay for their school and their own retirement. And then from there, it gets into the, more details of, I'm not sure if Hawaii has a tax deduction a state tax deduction on their 529 plan, but, we might, in Ohio, we do. So family of 4, 2 kids, 2 adults, they might have 2 529 plans, but I might encourage them to get 4, one for the parents too, because they can transfer them to the kids without any penalty. That way they get a $16,000 state tax deduction. Of course, $16,000 times, if you start when they're 1 year old, 16,000 times 18 still isn't going to pay for 2 kids' college 4-year education anyway. So the next question is, where does the money go next? Well, the next probably for me would be just a TOD account, just a brokerage account. That way it could be spent on something else. But I'm not wanting to tie that money up for all college because one or both of those kids might not go to school. Right. And that wouldn't be such a bad thing. And I still think it has a negative stigma on it. Like if you don't go to college, you're somehow looked down upon. And it's sad that it's that way. I always joke, what would happen to college? Here's a hypothetical question. What would happen to college tuition if we got rid of the loans?
It would plummet.
Yep.
It would plummet.
But follow the money, right? So, So yeah, from there, I guess it would be beyond philosophy. It would be, talking about the nitty gritty details of how to save for it. B plans, obviously there's a little bit of a penalty, a small one, albeit, to take the money out of a 529 if you don't use it for college. Although I have a CPA who's a client who overfunded his 529 for his daughter and ended up going and finding a qualified golf school in Florida to use it tax-free. So, there's other places you can use the money too if you do by accident overfund it. But that really, if you're overfunding your 529, my guess is you're probably not funding your retirement enough anyway. Right.
It's very interesting that you say that. Oh my God. I'd love to dig deeper into that, but that's just, I just wanted to put that out there because there's so many arguments about, is college worth it today? You got Mike Rowe with this thing, and I love what Mike Rowe does. And, I wish I didn't go to college right away. I went to the military and got my GI Bill. I went and grew up a little bit. And in foreign countries.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Can't be said enough.
Yeah, I became an air traffic controller, and I had the brains to go to college. I just didn't want to go right out of high school. I wanted to get away from my parents. I wanted to leave, and the military gave me a way out. But yeah, there's a lot of arguments about that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is, what are some of the top 2 or 3 things that you see the middle class suffer with the most, like when it comes to managing their money? Let's just go with one for the sake of time, and then provide an answer as to how you rectify that in your practice.
I would say the first one would just be being frivolous, just spending too much money. Enjoying life, taking the attitude to an extreme that, well, I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, so might as well have fun. So I would say that's one. And I
You
think
mean
the
the
solution.
YOLO, you only live
Oh
once
yeah, for
crowd,
sure. There we go.
YOLO,
Yeah. Yeah.
popping
So I would
bottles
say
for the weekend kind of thing, you know?
yeah, I mean, back to the shoes we just talked about, kind of mentioned as a joke, but I mean, it's a reality. Sometimes I think people think that, especially when money's at the forefront of their minds, they're not doing a good job of planning every day, every week, every month that goes by. They feel more behind, and that creates more stress and compounds over time. And then the more behind you feel, the more hopeless you feel, and the less you feel like starting.
Right.
When really you should start yesterday,
Right.
which means today. And I think that probably the first step in remedying that problem is not to make a budget. I know that's like that's always the first thing people tell you, make a budget. And it's like, well, I think the first thing you should do is look back at your budget,
Right.
and look at what you've been spending, and open your eyes to the fact that you've been blowing $1,200 a month on DoorDash, for instance.
God.
And then go, man, like all of a sudden you think to yourself, okay, maybe there is some more room in there to pay myself first that I didn't realize, because I'm just not paying attention. I'm swiping the card and I can pay it off. And all I care about is that I can pay it off every month. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
that would be the first one. Another one I would say is buying new cars. Drives me crazy. I mean, you do pretty well for yourself. I do pretty well for myself. I've never bought a new car, and I will never buy a new car. I won't buy it. I won't buy a new car. And I think that, every time you buy a used car, somebody bought new, right?
Well, again, that goes into the philosophy. It's like the college,
Yeah.
buying or leasing, buying a new car, leasing a new car. It all goes back to it all goes back to the philosophy, and that's very important. And one other thing I wanted to ask you that popped into my head over the last couple of days, and I've been meaning to do a show on this, but it's about the influencer society. Everybody does things nowadays because they are influenced to do so by somebody in some way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got the TikTok, you got all the talking heads on TV, you got like the Jim Cramers, you got like the Charles Payne show, you got like, you got all this stuff. And as human beings, we are consumers by nature, and we love to consume every single thing, whether it's good or bad for us. How do you talk to your clients about the influencer generation and how, like, they get paid for clicks and likes and smiles and all these other crazy emojis?
That's tough. In fact, that's the hardest question you've asked this whole show, because I have 12 and 9-year-old kids, and I'm watching them grow up in a world that is so different from the world I grew up in as a 44-year-old. I'm the Gen X that grew up knowing how to use a phone but didn't have a phone. Know, so I think that it's compounding the troubles that we have as financial professionals when you have somebody who is referred to you and you take them on as a pro bono client. You're not going to charge them. They don't have any money to help anyway.
Right.
But they've got a car loan that they're behind on.
Yeah.
They've got 6 school loans that most of which are private high interest loans that are not deductible.
Right.
They've got credit cards, 4 credit cards that they're paying anywhere between 17 and 24% interest on.
Yep.
And on the 3rd phone call, true story,
Yep.
on the 3rd meeting, it was a phone appointment. They call to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, to add to my spreadsheet, I bought this mirror that it's on layaway because it's this mirror that all the influencers have. And I'm thinking to myself, and this is not my world. This is me in Uzbekistan trying to order coffee. I don't have a clue what she's talking about.
Right.
And so I Google this mirror, and it looks like a gold mirror, but it's a $2,200 mirror that she has to have because all the influencers have it. And I don't understand it, honestly. And so to answer your question, what do you say to them? The only thing I know how to do beyond giving good advice, helping people dream and find dreams and things to spend their money on, the only other thing I know how to do is to scare them and to show them what happens if they don't pay themselves first, and if they don't save for themselves, and if they continue on this pattern of behavior that is going to end in retirement poverty. I wouldn't know what else to do. Do you want to live on Social Security? I don't know who does. People do. A lot of people do. But it's your choice. right?
A lot of
So,
people do.
man, I don't know, the influencer generation, that's a tough one. I feel bad for them because it's not even their fault. It's just,
Aren't we influencers? Aren't you and I both influencers as well?
I don't think we're as cool, Harold.
No, we're not, man. I mean, we're what you call old heads. We're old heads in this. Now, I love where we're going with this because, and I'm going to throw this out there to you as probably like the last thing we're going to talk about. There's this thing that, the stat, what is it? 3% of the people in the United States will retire with enough money to last them their entire life, but the other 97% will retire and not have enough to last them their entire life. We got a gazillion financial planners. We got 401ks. We got like all this information on TV, and yet we're still in the same place. Like, why do you think people retire with not enough to live on? And almost not everybody, but a lot of people have 401ks. But, I did a show on 401ks and why I think some of them suck because of the investment choices. But
sure,
what do you think it is that prevents the 3% or the 97% for, like coming up and making this a closer game? Because right now, this is sad.
I think that it's the same reason why if you're not somebody who scores high on the ASVAB, and you know exactly what I'm talking about,
yep,
you might not change your furnace filter ever. And your furnace might break.
Yep.
If you're not somebody who likes cars at all, you might not ever change your oil, and your timing belt might lock up your camshaft at some point, and now you got to buy a new engine.
Yeah.
I think that unfortunately, because there still to this day are very few schools, high schools is what I mean, that offer any kind of financial education to get people prepared for adulthood. And to this day, you don't have to take any in college, even if you go to college.
God.
I think that too many people don't understand it. They don't understand the ramifications of what happens if you don't plan. And I'm sure that you will agree with me, because I know your answer is going to be the same. In 21 and a half years, the number one, I don't want to call it a complaint, the number one wish that our clients have when I say, do you have any regrets, anything you wish you would have done over? Mm-hmm. Every single time, it's what? I wish I would have started earlier.
I wish I would have started sooner.
And why didn't they start earlier? Well, they knew they were supposed to, but yeah.
Now it's my fault. Like I'll do a seminar and it's, oh my God, this is awesome. Where were you 20 years ago? I'm like, just finishing high school, maybe.
Yeah, right. But I don't know. I think that I think it just needs to. There's a lot. And you're right. There's no shortage of financial advisors, financial planners, investment consultants, investment managers. But I just think most people when they think of financial planning, they think, I'll do that later. I don't have enough money to have a financial plan, or I know some people, just recently talked to a couple people who said they've put it off because they were afraid what the answer would be. How interesting and ironic is that it's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle, that if you would have started earlier, it wouldn't have been a problem. But the reason you put it off is because you were afraid of what the result would be.
That's
crazy,
insane.
Right?
That's insane. I'm going to do
I
a
don't
show.
think there's any shortage of opinions. Like, I don't think there's any shortage of reasons why people don't do it or put it off. Head in the sand mentality to, I'm not interested, to, I never thought of it.
Right.
Nobody ever told me. Nobody ever taught me. I think there's a lot of reasons.
A lot of reasons. I'm not interested in finances. Money is evil.
Yep.
I've heard that one before.
Evil. Nice. Money's evil.
Money's evil. Yeah,
I'll finish on that. Money's not a root of all evil. It's a unit of choice. And the more units you have, the more choices you have.
Exactly. I'm sorry, man, but you make me want to break down in tears over this because, I work hard every single day to take care of my clients. And the worst thing somebody can do other than calling me the N-word is to say that I'm greedy. That right there is like, that hurts me big time.
It's a low blow. Yeah.
And I give it everything I got every day. I've dedicated my life to this. I live this stuff. I breathe this stuff. And when someone says something like that, money's evil. It's like, wait a minute, then give me all yours or go burn it if it's evil.
Yeah.
Give
it away. Definitely don't burn it. Give it away.
Yeah. So, I'll do a show later on and maybe you can come on with me, but it's money problems.
I would love to. This has been fun.
Yeah. Money problems versus mental problems. And that's going to be a heavy duty one. I need another specialist, a psychiatrist, or somebody to come in here and help with this, because I think people suffer tremendously financially because of the way they think, how they think about money, their view on it. And so I'll leave it with that. But Adam, up there in Ohio, man, I think you're doing a bang up job. I know your clients probably love you, and if they don't, they're missing out. So
same to you, Harold.
How can they get at you? Like, the term. Like, let me get.
Our website's libertaswealth.com. So it's like liberty with an AS at the end. Libertas, which is Latin for freedom, liberty, and independence.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're Central Ohio. Emails info@libertaswealth.com.
Yep. And so that information is going to be in our show notes. And so if you're in that area, I don't know how many clients you're taking on, but right now I'm kind of booked. I'm not really taking on anybody else, but but if you and your team are taking on clients, Adam will be glad to have you up there. And is there any particular type of client that you would prefer to work with, and those that you just absolutely can't help?
Like I said, I mentioned pro bono work before, yep. So we never ever turn anybody away in terms of putting them in the right direction. So we have a minimum of $500,000. We waive that minimum for people who are going to be coming into that money, whether it be through inheritance, retirement, changing jobs in the next 2 years. We waive that minimum for all of our clients' family members. We'll never, ever turn away a family member.
Yep.
And then we've been bending that rule a little bit for the obvious reasons that, we've been in a bear market. Stocks have been going down since February 2021 at this point. So we've been bending that just a tad. But even if they don't meet our minimum, we always give them our time for free, answer questions. I always say you never have to be a client to ask a question.
Right. And what I love what you're saying is because you invest your time back into people. I mean, I know you probably do very well. You make a lot of money and your time is extremely valuable. You're probably at like $3,000 an hour or something crazy like that. Like, we do well, but we also invest back into people. And I try to do what I wish to God somebody would have did for me. Like, I was just broke, stupid person. And then, when I sought help, they never gave me the right advice. It was always something crazy. So I appreciate what you're doing up there, man. And that's why I want to give you a big shout out. So Adam, Coach, thank you, sir, for being on my show today.
Thank you.
And until next time, everybody, 1, 2, 3, let's get it.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.